Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hair Loss Show. Russell, good to see you.
Good to see you, Vikram. It's been a while.
And it's great to have you back
still
here.
alive, guys.
There's never a doubt. But it's good to have you back, and it's great that we're doing this session, and we've got a few topics that we want to talk about and really share some really good content and really good information with the audience. But I thought in this episode specifically, what we do is we talk about beard transplant, because that's a topic that a question that we get a lot about. We talk to a lot of people about hair transplants into the scalp, and that's probably the most common thing that we deal with. But there are people that have a lack of facial hair, want more facial hair, and want to transplant more hair into the beard. You're obviously seeing a lot of that as well.
Yes, I mean, that's increasingly popular, that is true, but there's always been a group of people with facial scarring where they wanted to have beard transplants. So there could be ice pick scars from acne, for example.
Yeah.
Probably the commonest one, I would say, would be cleft lip.
Yes.
Right, where we do moustache transplants. It's a huge
complete life-changing experience.
Amazing. You know, it's such a good operation to do.
Yes.
For the patient, and it's not that tricky if you know what you're doing to do that moustache transplant, but it makes a huge difference to them. So yes, facial scarring has been one that we've always been able to do. But I agree that there is, ironically, with a move towards shorter hairstyles, there's also a move for young men like myself to have beards. So they want to have, and they don't have to be dense, which is really the interesting thing about this. They just want it to be even and not to be gappy.
Yes.
Right. So it's not like we need to fill them up and make them look like a bushranger.
Yes.
Right. We just need them to even out the spots, and that's what you're often doing, is because they were born with this patchy sort of distribution of hair follicles on the face, and basically they just want it to be evened out so they can have a nice little low grade.
And I think that's really important to sort of determine, because yes, you're absolutely right. It's not a one size fits all. Okay, let's separate the scarring. We'll come back to that in a second, because I think that is absolutely critical. And it's something that, like you said, can make a life-changing experience in certain individuals. But you know, looking at social norms and social trends right now, having a thick beard, a really thick bushy beard, seems to be popular. Right, and so a lot of people aspire to that, and that's fine. But there are pros and cons to that aspect as well. But you're right. So I think the first thing to do is to find out what is going on in that individual, because if that individual has never had a lot of facial hair and wants more facial hair, I think that's one thing. But if someone used to have facial hair and has lost some facial hair and wants to sort of replenish that, that's a different scenario, and one we should be careful, because they shouldn't be managed in the same way.
No, that's absolutely true. So the thing is that the other big question that young men, because it's typically young men that want this surgery, should think about is that every hair we take from the scalp to put in the beard is one less hair we have to transfer if they lose hair on the scalp later on. So this becomes a balance of whether it is a good use of resource to have a massive amount going in here. Because if you start with a congenital absence of beard, for example, where you've got virtually nothing, you're talking 3,000 to 4,000 hairs having to go in there. And that's a lot of donor to start from scratch and do that. So this is something that I did it a few years ago on a young medical student. And luckily, I carefully examined his scalp. He had very little family history. He was in his early 20s. He had a perfectly normal hairline, perfectly normal density through the top of his scalp, and he was insistent that he wanted the beard transplant. So after I talked him through the pluses and minuses of depleting that much out of his scalp, he proceeded. But it's something that people need to think about.
Yes.
You don't want to solve one problem and at the same time create another one.
Correct. So you've got to be careful that you're not sort of painting yourself into a corner where you got an outcome on the face that you wanted to, but then you've lost hair elsewhere, and then that was ended up to be more important or more critical in terms of your particular journey that you're going on.
On a practical level, if we get down to the practical aspects of it, The thing about beards, which differentiates itself from most of the scalp, is the inherent wild variability in hair direction in the beard. And that in different regions they can, or even in the same region, they can be going in opposite directions.
Correct.
So it's really quite interesting.
A lot of people have, not that we do too much underneath the chin, but a lot of people do have whirls in various places as well.
So there's a big individual variation in that, and that has to be taken into account when you're creating the beard. It's not a one-size-fits-all, put them in at the same angle.
Yes.
Right, on the front half of the scalp, there's a lot of uniformity about what we do. Where you lose the uniformity is in the crown. Well, this is a bit like a beard. The beard's a bit like the crown. You really got to pay attention to where you are in the area. You don't need 3 and 4 hair grafts in a beard.
No, and that's the thing.
Right? You need ones at the margins and maybe 1s and 2s in between.
Yes.
And I said this at the start of the talk, that to me, uniformity is at least as important as density in this case, because it's the patchiness that bothers many of the patients that come to see me.
So we really have to, it's not a question of just, I want more density, let's just shove a whole bunch of hair in there. We've really got to think of direction, or a lack of uniformity of direction, because we don't want there to be to be in rows. The angle is also important.
Acute angling. Yes. The hair has to be sitting, like an eyebrow, it has to be sitting flatter to the skin than what we do usually in the scalp.
Correct. And so a lot of thought has to go into the planning, not only the design aspect of what you're trying to create with the beard, but also the implementation of that design, right? And we've all seen horrific photos of people that have had really bad transplants in general, but also facial hair transplants, when they go wrong, can be also a problem. They can look very obvious. So it's important that a real artistic element play a big part of the process of beard transplants.
So design of beard transplants is at least as tricky or important as hairlines design in the scalp. And also eyebrow.
Yes.
And when people want eyebrows, it's got to be very carefully planned. It's not a matter of just shoving some hair in.
Yeah.
The good news, I suppose, with beard compared to eyebrow, for example, is that there's a better mix that goes on when you get it, right? With eyebrows, the problem is that the hairs are often more stout than the eyebrow. They're thicker than the eyebrow hairs, and the angling is difficult, and there's a bit of variability in the look.
Yes.
With beard, it's a bit more sympathetic, the transfer of scalp hairs. And to the beard is from that perspective, is less problematic.
Yeah. And so coming quickly back into scars, because we love operating in scars in general, because I think that, like we've said before, can make a big difference in that person's life. But if you're doing scars, and if the scar's not very big, you can also use beard hair into that same scar.
You can, and generally what would happen in that situation is that we would go under the chin here and transfer the hairs from under the chin into the moustache, for example, and that scarring, or maybe even if it's only just pockmark scarring and there's not a lot of it in there, then generally speaking, if we're just trying to spot fix an area in the beard, then beard to beard's a very good option.
Yeah, so...
and grows very well.
It grows really well, and people are really, really grateful for getting it done.
They're typically not fragile hairs, the beard hairs. They're actually thicker than scalp hairs most of the time. So they're actually quite good to work with.
And scalp hairs are obviously better, beard hairs are better in their native area.
Correct.
So that would be really good. So I think beard hair transplants are really a great option if recommended in the correct scenario.
Yes, and emphasising yet again that young men who want beard transplants have to think through, if they're taking it from the scalp, are they going to leave enough in the scalp in case they start to lose?
Yeah, so again, highlighting the importance of making sure that A, you're assessed properly, and B, counselled with the same amount of clarity.
And careful thought from the patient about the long-term consequences.
Perfect. All right, well, I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye for now.